my soul.
Quarter mile, use the left 2 lanes to turn left onto West University Drive.
Critical threat. Focus. There you go. Good camera. Good camera. You can focus. Critical threat. So how did you guys come up with the critical threat name?
It's actually a Pathfinder term. So Pathfinder is based off of D&D, where you roll a D20. If you get a 1, it's a critical fail, and if you get a 20, it's a critical success. Pathfinder actually has something called a critical threat range, where if you, it's different depending on like what character, but if you range within a couple numbers of a 20, then you could still pull off this like really kick-ass move, and it's a fun feeling when you're actually like playing.
So that's how it came from. Okay, so I'm here. They got copies of my book, so I'm actually going to graffiti and slandered and I draw. Can I doodle on them?
Yeah,
I can doodle on a book?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to just do stuff with these books. So you should find my books here at Critical Thread here in, I'm sorry, Mesa? Phoenix?
Tempe, Arizona.
I don't really know where I am. There's a bunch of cities in this place, and it's my first time really driving around this place. So. Woo! I'm at Critical Threat in Tempe, Arizona. Okay, I got to think of a new one for every single book I sign. That's the trick now. Okay.
There actually used to be another store here called Pop Culture Paradise, and I was a good customer of that store. They were actually the first comic book shop I had ever got into. I only started reading comics about 3 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. A friend of mine said, you have to read this, you have to read this, and that book was Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. So I picked it up on issue 4 or 5, and I got the digital copies, and I read all of those, fell in love with them, and decided, okay, I have to have the physical copies of these. So I walked into Pop Culture for the very first time and said, Saga. And from there it just ballooned, and every time I came in there they had more recommendations, so I had lots and lots of comics, and so I became friends with the owner, and when he said earlier this summer that they had to shut down, he came to me and said, do you want it?
It kind of fell in our lap, and it worked. So far it's worked out pretty well. So.
Yeah, I grew up with entrepreneur parents. I've always wanted to be part of the small business, giving back to the community and employing people and doing right by them. So this is my way to give back.
Okay. We have a box here that says donation for comic care?
Yes.
What is comic care? What is that?
It used to be full, but I guess the ninja just came in and picked up our bunch of donations. So Comic Care is a local nonprofit, and they take donations of people's comic books. New comic books, old comic books you don't read anymore, everything. They'll take your comic books and they will hand deliver them to sick kids in hospitals around the valley, and they'll do it in costume. So
even better.
It's a bunch of my friends who are cosplayers who are part of this group, and so like Batman and Batgirl will deliver the Batman comic to the kid in the hospital bed.
That's so cool.
They have some of the biggest hearts in the world. They're really great people.
So Phoenix is actually a lot bigger than it seems. My only experience with Phoenix was Phoenix Comic Con a few years ago, and I just came in for the con. I didn't stay around and I didn't drive around, so I didn't realize how big this city really is. They tell me you can drive an hour from one end of the city to the other, and that includes all the little towns involved in the Phoenix metropolitan area. So I'm kind of surprised at how vast this place really is. Hey guys, so today I'm here with Anabel, who I met at Taiyou 2013, I think?
Yeah.
Or was it 2012? I don't remember.
Oh my god.
It was a long time ago.
It feels like it's been 2 years. It's just been a blur. Before I even thought of doing Men versus Cosplay, even like the Facebook page or the calendar, I was still pretty new to cosplay itself. Alan helped me do my first cosplay, Mandalorian, and I was kind of new and naive to everything. So at cons, I saw a lot of projects that were starting to get popular.
Right.
Like at the time, I knew a lot of cosplayers personally, but like throughout the web, if you showed me like 5 Spider-Men, I wouldn't know who they were. But now if you show me 5 Spider-Men, I know who each individual cosplayer is. So that's at the point where I couldn't really recognize them, except if they were like big names or people I knew. So, I mean, certain people had projects, like Yaya Han was doing calendars and prints, Jessica Negri was doing the same, some local people had their own calendar, but it was always women. So as I'm looking around cons and I'm getting interested in cosplay myself, I wanted to kind of buy merchandise, but none of it really felt like it was catered to me as a lady. Like, I love the pinup art, I love the sexy ladies, but I kind of wanted to see men do the same, not even just pinup, but men doing projects at all. And I was kind of joking on Facebook one day, you know, like to my lady friends, like, I saw some cool lady calendars at con, we should totally do a dude one. Like, find all these guys we know, put one together and sell it, you know, something we want to see.
Yeah.
And people were joking around, like all my guy friends are like, yeah, I'll do my sexy cosplay for you, or I'll see what I have in my closet. And I'm like, not even just sexy, just a calendar. And because I was a gamer, I'm a huge gamer, I'm like, let's do a video game thing. So I was at Phoenix Comic Con with Alan, just kind of doing a normal, me doing art, him selling cosplay props. And this is actually Cap Santiago back here. He walks up. Was it in Padova came? I think he was in it. That's how he introduced himself.
I missed it.
He walked up in cosplay and he's like, I didn't know who he was at all. And this like awesome dude in armor just walks up and he's like, hey, I heard you're doing a calendar. I want to be in it. And in my head I'm thinking, crap, I was just kind of joking on Facebook. I really wasn't going to do this.
Uh-oh.
But I've never seen anybody with this kind of like energy before. Like, he kind of made it a reality when he said that. I'm like, if I could have one guy on board, like finding 11 others to at least fill up a calendar shouldn't be that hard. I mean, when we're working on it, it was just the challenge going back and forth with all these guys and photographers. It was a little stressful, not having worked on a project of the scale before, but when I got this test proof from the printer, like all that stress from the past 2 months disappeared. Like, everything was completely worth it. There was an email, I had one email that really made me cry. A guy submitted his photo, and I sent my approval email, everything was fine, photo was high res, everything I needed. And it turned out the male cosplayer was a trans man. And he sent me this really touching email that he was terrified that I would find out and reject him. And I was like, you're still a dude. I want to celebrate all guys no matter how you got there, no matter what your life story is. And he just sent me this huge, like, just saying that his family had rejected him and cosplay was one community he felt safe in to kind of, you know, be male characters that inspired him to transition and all this. And I was just like, oh my God, you know, like.
So your workshop's actually in a garage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like most people's, it's the only big space we have.
Yeah, and I see you turn. So basically, there's no cars in here at all. This is just a workspace. Wow.
It's all the garage.
How long have you been building this workstation?
2 years?
We moved here about 2 years ago.
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
So it's transformed from like one small bench to getting bigger tables. I got a vacuum former now.
Oh, let's go take a look at that.
We're getting some new things coming in. I'm gonna be getting more tools so I can. Yeah, we picked it up from a buddy of mine who built it, and I did some mods to it so I can start vacuum forming armor and mask and stuff, and make life easier and everything from.
How'd you get started actually building props and doing all this?
Star Wars.
Star Wars? Yeah, we're just playing Star Wars. Everybody's playing Star Wars.
I mean, I did haunted house stuff. I did yard haunts, where I built animatronic stuff and coffins and lighting and all that kind of stuff. I lived out in the boondocks, so we didn't get a lot of comic books. Watched a lot of TV, a lot of Godzilla, a lot of Universal Monster type stuff. Oh,
so that's kind of like your way into the fandom in a way?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with, like Lon Chaney Sr., Bela Lugosi, all the oldies. That's what I grew up. I grew up with all the black and white stuff, even though I'm not that old. That's what I liked.
Is there any dream costume that you wanted to make ever since you were a kid?
I mean, there is, but it's more of a kind of a pipe dream until I could actually have time to make something like that. I mean, it's...
What is it?
I've been a huge werewolf fan ever since I saw the first werewolf movie with Lon Chaney Jr. So I wanted, and then transgressing American Werewolf in London and The Howling and stuff. So I've always wanted to make a big werewolf costume, but I've got the means to do it, just never the time.
This always happens. I end up in rush hour traffic no matter where I end up. Rush hour. So I have to say this is the most unique house I've been to in Phoenix because it doesn't. This is an older house, right?
1940s.
40s?
Yeah.
And all the places I've been to so far are very cut and paste, like apartments, maybe
Yeah.
and houses are very, made within the last 20 years, kind of stuff. So, but there's ghosts in this house.
There are ghosts. I've lived here, I think, for about 4 years now, and we've had experiences. It'll stop for a few months, and then, like, for a while, it'll be like once a week something will happen. We've heard
What?
footsteps, we've heard voices. I've watched doors and cabinets opening, like, right in front of my face. Cups, you'd hear noises, knocking on the wall. Like, really everything that you could think of. Shadow people, we just saw that last week. It was the first time we ever saw shadow people, yeah.
You're okay with this?
Yeah. Actually, we discussed it because...
Are you okay with this?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we talked about it because I don't know if you've ever lived anywhere or had any experiences with like hauntings, but I have, and you can tell if it's like malicious. And what we have here doesn't seem malicious. Like, we talked about it with my parents because they lived here before also, and everyone agrees that it's a kid of some kind because of the kinds of things that it does. Like, it'll tug on your shirt. It like tapped me on the hip on one time, like, hey, what are you doing? And so we kind of thought it's not really anything serious, but it does steal things.
I have to say that I am freaked out. But then again, I'm not really comfortable with stuff like that.
She's talking about the cornstarch incident of 2014.
Yeah.
The what?
So, okay.
What?
I was getting ready to do a makeup tutorial for YouTube, and we had set everything up, and things had gone missing before, but we set everything up. He was putting everything on my little vanity where I had my mirror and everything, and I was doing cream makeup, and I usually finish my cream makeup with cornstarch.
Right.
And I literally saw him with the cornstarch, put it on the desk, and then we went and got all my other supplies, and I did my whole tutorial. We filmed everything.
Yeah.
And I was reaching for the cornstarch, and I was like, "Where's the cornstarch? What'd you do with it?" And he's like, "I put it on the desk." And we looked around the whole house. This is about a year ago, and have not found it since.
I'm convinced that one day when we move out of here, we're gonna come in when it's completely empty and it's just gonna be sitting in the middle of the floor.
The cornstarch, my glasses, the corned beef. Right here. So there's nothing over there except boxes.
So.
And I heard tapping, so I come out and I was looking.
So you actually recorded tapping?
Uh-huh.
Bye guys. I'll see you guys later. I'm leaving now. No, but that would freak me out.
This is where
Oh wow.
it's a mess, but less of a mess than it usually is, which is something. But this is where I do basically everything, all of my commissions, all of my my costumes. So these are all like finished costumes, these are unfinished costumes, tactical gear, more costumes, paint, headpieces, dress form. All those boxes back there are wigs, and then I've got fabric, and
Copy machine,
yeah.
printer.
Printer for printing labels. So it's an organized chaos.
So you say that cosplay saved your life in a way?
Yeah. When I moved to LA, my initial goal was to be a costume designer. It didn't work out for me, so I came home, and figuring out that I didn't want to do that with myself kind of put me in a position where I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Like, I was an adult and I had no idea what direction I was going in, and I couldn't get a job. It was right around when the recession started and everything.
Oh yeah.
So nobody would hire me. My art business started out good, and then it just kind of fell off and nothing was working out. So I was living at home. My parents were being patient with me, but I was feeling very down on myself because I was supposed to be like, growing up and everything. So I legitimately was in a period of depression for about a year. And then when we went to the premiere and I started putting my costumes online and people actually started buying them, I think it took about 2 years for it to actually sustain me enough to where I could move out and pay rent. And So literally, cosplay saved me from a life where I would have been depressed and hated myself and hated everything and had to get a job somewhere that I didn't like. So the people in cosplay itself, and my business in cosplay kind of
re-energized you.
Yeah. Made me figure out who I was and made me happy with myself. So even if this doesn't, I mean, this pays the bills. We're never, you know, just the fact that I can pay for a life on a business that's my own is really a lifesaver for me.
Well, it is your own business. I mean, this is your creation. This is your heart and soul in a way, and so
it makes me feel like I didn't go to college for nothing. I mean, it wasn't cheap going to college, and then when I left college, I was like, well, I just paid all that money for something I'm probably never going to use again. And the fact that I'm using my education now makes it feel like it was all worth it. So.
Yeah, so I can't wait to see what happens in 10 years.
Yeah.
You know.
It's cool because I did a fashion show in 2011. Somebody asked me to do a fashion show, and I went and I interviewed and everything, and I did costumes for the fashion show because I can't get away from costumes.
Right.
And they interviewed me, and they were like, where do you see yourself in like 5 years? And I was like, well, I want to be a self-sustained, like I want my business to be able to support me, and I want to like be an international name, which I sell internationally. I sell overseas all the time. So 5 years later, almost exactly 5 years later, my business is taking care of me.
I think now you need another 5-year plan.
Right. My other 5-year plan is to have seamstresses and all that. So.
Okay, we shall see in 5 years. So you get batteries for.
This is my what I call my emergency pack. This is my travel pack. It's what I pick up and go.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And this is actually a lot for like an emergency pack. A lot of photographers would say, but I have this obsession with controlling my light. It can be a beautiful golden hour, which is at like 5 o'clock. Most photographers know, you know that, and it's beautiful lighting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't need a flash. I'm probably gonna pull out 3 or 4 flashes because I want to control every aspect. I want this to be it's my artwork. This is my vision, and it's gonna work the way I want it to work. And so if I have to manipulate everything, I'm going to. So I just bring everything just in case.
Just in case.
You never know.
So where is your camera bag and everything?
This is my camera bag.
I thought this is a back. Okay, so did you squeeze the camera in here too as well?
So usually what I'll do is I'll fill this, and then the camera goes on my sling.
Yeah.
And then I'll have the camera on.
Oh yeah, it's on you.
It's always on me because you never know when you're gonna want that photo, which is also why I keep my zoom lens on. Because, you know, just in case.
Just in case.
I can do whatever I want, but I do carry my prime lens. My prime lenses are my favorite. I got the 50, and my next one's my 85. Talk to me. So, again, it's like, I'm used to being like that loner, that guy. I really did nothing. I really did. I was the type, I worked 12-hour shifts, so I literally worked and slept. So, having this now, even for a weekend, once a month, I was like, oh, this is a release. You know what
exactly.
I mean? I feel
yes.
All my stress is gone instantaneously. So I got hooked on it. And then from there, after that is when I met her. I met her before. But I started talking to her and we actually started dating. And then found out she was a costume designer. And then she started making me costumes. So I got really into it. I mean, I've got Arrow in my repertoire. I've got my Wesker. I've got Dante from Devil May Cry. And so I got really into it. And then one day, it's not this camera. We have it. I keep it in a drawer in my bedroom because it's kind of the camera that started it all, as it was. But it was a little Nikon D40. It was beat up. Her sister owned it. Traveled around all Europe with it. So I mean, by the time I got it, it was already on its last leg. But she was like, take pictures of this costume. I need prints for my booth. And I was like, I'd never worked a booth before either. This is a new thing. I get to see behind the scenes, the vendors. So I was like, okay, cool. So I go out there. And I'm like, just snapping pictures on auto, and I'm just like, this is fun. And then she got the pictures on the computer. I was like, wow, these are like the angles that you got. And I was like, I don't know, I just took what looked good to my eye, you know what I mean? I'd never done photography before. And then, so I started looking at them, and then she started showing me how other cosplay photographers do. And I was like, wow, you're right, like I do a little different. And then she was like, yeah. And then so I got into it with that camera, and I used that camera for a year and a half. I mean, like that thing's dead now. I was taking 3,000 pictures of con, and then I started getting some feedback and about like, oh, you know, they're turning out really good, your angle's really good, and that made me want to study it. So I studied it, and then I learned how to get away from like auto and started getting into manual, and I started learning how lighting works. I started learning how to manipulate things with my own flashes and how, shadow work, all that kind of stuff. So I got really into it. And then Courtney, matter of fact, it's not even been a year yet. Courtney this year in like February we went to Taiyou Con, which is an anime convention here.
Yeah.
And she goes, "This is a con that you ask other people." Because I'd only taken pictures of her.
Yeah.
All the other pictures I had taken were at cons, like on the con floor.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You're gonna go and you're gonna actually take people for sessions and take them away and and set up something." And I was like, super nervous, but I did it. And then I did like 2 or 3 people, and those 2 or 3 people today are still my most loyal customers. They loved it, which made me love it, which made me buy this. And then I got really into it. This is my Nikon D5200. It's not like super pro, but it is.
It does a job?
Oh, and you gotta imagine, I went from a Nikon D40, so any of the people out there who know cameras, I went from a Nikon D40 to this. That's kind of like...
That's a big jump.
That's a huge jump.
That's a big jump.
Know what I mean? That's at least the difference from like a snapshot, disposable jumping into like a T3i. You know what I mean? Like that was a huge jump for me. And so now all I do all day is study it and take more photos, and I can't get enough. The more photos I can take, the better. Matter of fact, there's like a quote that I really live by that is, the first 10,000 photos you take are your worst. So I just keep going. I gotta keep taking more and more photos. And I really feel like photography is my out. Cosplay was really good with the stress and everything, but photography is just something that I can pour all my, because she makes all the costumes.
Right.
And so it's like all my creative angst and everything, I can get it out through here. I'm not a writer. I'm not a drawer. But I have these visions and I have like this creative aspect that's just locked up in here, and I need to get it out. And I find that I can do it with photography. I can find a way. And cosplayers help me with that so much. Thank you so much, cosplayers.
Okay, guys, so right now we're heading to go talk to Mike. Mike is the con head for Taiyou Con, a local anime convention here in Phoenix. Oh, actually, I think it's Mesa, Arizona. Somewhere around here. There's just too many towns in this place. That's all I gotta say.
Con is a 3-day anime convention in Mesa, Arizona, located at Phoenix Marriott Mesa and the Connectant Mesa Convention Center.
Which we are right here, right now. Here we are.
We are in the Phoenix Marriott Mesa. Its recently renovated lobby is a wonder to look at. I know a lot of cosplayers last year took photo shoots in the lobby because of how amazing it looks.
Tell me a story about Taiyou. Like, when did it start? How, just like a kind of quick, like Wikipedia about it.
Taiyou Con's been around for about 6 years now. It's grown massive in size from what it used to be. We started out at a smaller anime convention in the Mesa Hilton right off of the 60. And since then, it's been nothing but constant growth. Last year we had our biggest guest out yet, and this year we're continuing the trend. What is the most difficult part of actually being a convention head? The most difficult part about being a convention head would probably be the amount of time that it takes to actually plan a convention. Unlike other convention directors for other conventions, I have 4 part-time jobs. I am also a full-time student, so finding that time management is really the most difficult part about it. Was it more difficult than you imagined at first when you thought about doing this? At first it was a lot of responsibility that I probably didn't anticipate, but everything's a learning experience, and a lot of things now for me, being as experienced as I am, have become routine for me. So what is the greatest satisfaction you get from doing what you do here at Taiyou? the greatest satisfaction that I get is just seeing everybody having a good time and everybody, smiling. This job really is a thankless job. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain because sure, people do come up and thank you, but it's not a majority of the people. But just seeing everybody having a good time and, being together is something that's really rewarding for me.
What do you wish that people knew about conventions? Like, what is it they don't appreciate?
I wish people knew that they were for everybody. There's still a stigma with conventions.
Really?
That, everybody thinks that only a certain type of people can go or you have to dress up to go. A lot of people want to come to conventions. It's growing in popularity, but a lot of people think that, I'm not good enough to dress up in costume, or if I can't go if I can't dress up. And, that's not the case.
No, it isn't.
I strive to build an inclusive community for everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's everything that I strive for with the convention.
So here's the video part. So, Gackto, what are you working on today?
I am working on the Saiyan armor for Vegeta from Dragon Ball, the Dragon Ball movie for Taiyou because we have some Dragon Ball voice actors coming in, Goku and Vegeta, so we have a giant cosplay group. So right now we have this armor that me and Jai worked on.
I've noticed that you got zippers on the side.
Oh yes, we do have zippers here, so we can have a tighter fit once I put it on. Got this idea from this Filipino cosplayer that came into town a few months ago at another convention, and he had a Big Hero 6 armor, and it had like a zipper run down the back, so everything else just looked great and like one piece, and it fits him really well. So we just took a look at it, and it turns out to be a zipper, so he can tighten it. So that's what we have here. We're able to like basically have really tight armor. So right now I can't fit into this, but if I unzip it, I can get into it and then zip it back up.
Definitely.
80 grit sandpaper, after you Dremel it. So, because this needs to be round.
Right.
And so you Dremeled it, and you took a giant chunk off already. And use 80 grit to like keep sanding this down to make it even more smooth.
Do you move from 80 to different grades after this, or is this just like you?
Yeah. So after that, because this 80 grit will sand more, but not as much as the Dremel. Mm-hmm. So if I want to smooth it out, get the 120. And then you sand this, so you're sanding more off, but then it's so much smoother. And then you take the 320, which is like super fine grit here. Mm-hmm. So like adhesive Velcro, which is awesome by the way. So no glue, just kind of snap. Just like put it on, and it sticks to the foam pretty good too. And so all this trimming right here is just Velcro, so we can take this off.
Oh yeah.
Feels great actually. I've worn like really bulky armor before, or armor that like fell apart, but this thing is not like, it's like super fit and can take a lot of punishment.
Well, I just hope so, right?
Yeah, I could probably like do cartwheels in this if I wanted to. I can't do cartwheels by the way, but if I wanted to.
If you wanted to. I say something like, so here we are at Aaron's place. Aaron's actually in my book, and I think you're the first person I've visited here in Phoenix who are actually in my book.
Hey, that makes me feel honored then.
So but when you contacted me, I was like, I know that name. I'm sorry, there was like almost 200 names in the book, so I'm like, yeah, I know that guy. And I was like, it was PCC, it was a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy here that you invited me over, and I just kind of want to find out, like, from what you show me so far, I would say you're more a 3D printer guy?
Well, started off doing Pepakura, actually.
Okay.
Which is obviously very common. I started doing that when it wasn't very new, or it wasn't very popular, I should say. I did a Mark III Ironman armor and fiberglass in Pepakura, and I was one of the first people in the world to actually ever have that costume.
Wow. So
there was only one other person, John Christensen, I never remember his last name, but he goes by TMP. He had a Mark III first over in Europe, And over here in the United States, I was the first person to actually debut that costume. That was in 2008. It's always been big on Halloween. That seems to be a common trait for most people in this hobby. They just love it. So like we would have like zip lines from the second floor.
What?
With ghosts like jumping off and scaring the trick-or-treaters as they're coming up. Parties every single year. It was really easy for me to spend a few $100s to $500 just for Halloween costume for one day. Because I usually hit about 4 or 5 parties in one night. So I could justify it. And then I actually started working at Atomic Comics in Chandler, which was,
yeah.
Unfortunately, Atomic Comics is no more, but I was one of the managers there, and one of my staff, she was a cosplayer. She was brilliant craftsmanship for sewing, and she actually went to school for fashion design and just kind of translated all that talent over as well. She came with the 501st to our store for a free comic book day, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. So I was thinking to myself, well, I'm not really big into Star Wars like a lot of people are, especially right now. I like it, but not enough to make a costume from Star Wars. So I was like, well, I love Marvel. So is there a Marvel club? No? Okay, I'm going to start one. So I did. So I started the Arizona Avengers. When that's grown into the West Coast Avengers and the East Coast Avengers, and now the Mid-Pacific Avengers out in Hawaii. So it's all this hundreds of people doing charity work. And it all started from my coworker, my staff, just introducing it to me. I'm like, hey, I don't have to do it just Halloween. I can do this year round. Aside from that, I was doing a lot of cosplay. Every single month, every weekend, I was doing something. But unfortunately, when my mother passed, it was very, very hard. But she wanted me to promise to keep doing my hobby. So before she passed away, she's like, you're too good, you're too talented. I'm very proud of you of what you're doing with your talents and helping others. I want you to keep going. So here I am still doing it, and I've been fortunate to find my sweetheart, who is
Sweetheart?
Yeah, my sweetheart.
Ding. They're sweetheart. They're sweetheart.
Who, ironically, we met at a convention.
Cosplay brought us together.
Cosplay. Oh, this sounds like a good story. We should come over and sit over there.
All right, I'm bringing the child. Bringing the child.
Yeah. Okay. I love stories like this.
So.
Yeah.
She actually met me at Sabotin in 2010.
2010. Ooh, 5 years ago. Okay. That's a while.
Yeah.
So, here's the fun thing. She was introduced to me, just by a mutual friend. So, hey, and she had this, I guess you could say, rested bitch face.
It's terrible. Like
where you look like you're angry but you're not.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like, oh, she's not talking. She's kind of got the scowl. I'm like, hi. All right. Little did I know.
I was horribly smitten. I was like, that dude is hot. And he's in an Iron Man costume. Oh my god. And went home, still thinking about him, and he added me on Facebook. And I was like, and then we didn't talk for years. Nothing. And I eventually...
Well, my next costume after my Iron Man was doing Loki's costume.
Oh yeah, the one I saw.
Yeah. Which I've actually revised a couple times. It's so much
better. I'm sure you have.
But like everybody else.
Yeah, basically like everybody else. Like, anyway. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So I had my Loki costume, and apparently she was fangirling over me, and I had no idea.
I became a really big fan. I was going to school for theater and production, so I was learning about costumes and...
I never even had a fan page until this last year because Salt Lake Comic Con told me to. So I'm like...
Okay.
So I followed him and his builds and what he was doing, and I would sit there with my friends in my dorm in college. I was like, look at this guy. This is who I need to marry.
Ding, 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 ding.
Then I made a costume. I made a steampunk ball gown, and I had ordered contacts for a costume that I was going to do from him because he was selling contacts for a little.
Right.
And he messaged me to see how the contacts went, and then was like, oh, I see you do costumes. And I was like, oh, yes, I do. And that was kind of it.